In prehistoric times, every man was a hunter. The bow provided sustenance and protection for tribal peoples. Later, with the invention of firearms, bow hunting disappeared in all but the most primitive areas. It was lost for a time, but only temporarily. It resurfaced in the late 1800s. Maurice and Will Thompson, growing up in the hills of Georgia, learned to make crude bows and arrows, playing Robin Hood in the lush countryside. Their skills were refined by an old hermit living nearby. After the Civil War, guns were denied them by Union law, and the bow became their means of sustenance. Their book, The Witchery of Archery, led to some popularity for the sport and the formation of a few archery clubs, notably the NAA. But archery was not yet a household word. Modern bow hunting began with Ishi, a Yana Indian who emerged from the forests of Northern California in 1911. He was the last of his race and had lived his life in the manner of his forefathers, without knowledge of or contact with the white man's culture. In need of medical care, Ishi met Dr. Saxton Pope, and the two became fast friends. Ishi taught Dr. Pope all he knew about the making and using of the bow and arrow. Pope became an avid bow hunter and wrote a book on the subject. Together with his friend Art Young, Pope tested shooting equipment all over North America and Africa, and successfully brought down wild sheep, moose, grizzly bear, and many other species. These pioneers are generally regarded as the forefathers of modern bow hunting. Today, the prestigious Pope and Young Club documents the finest trophies of North American big game, taken with bow and arrow. A young man recovering from an injury read Pope's book and made a bow and arrows according to its instructions. One day, while practicing with his homemade equipment in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park, an older gentleman approached. "That's a mighty fine-looking bow you got there, son," he said. "Where'd you learn to make such a bow?" "I read a book on it by Dr. Pope," he replied. The older gentleman then introduced himself as Dr. Saxton Pope. The young man was Doug Easton, and a new era in arrow making began. In 1922, Easton began producing custom-made yew wood bows and cedar arrows. Frustrated with the lack of arrow uniformity, he began manufacturing arrows from aluminum tubing in 1939. Although society has changed since man first drew a bowstring, the philosophy and spirit of the bow hunter remains, providing an enduring link with the values of the past. These bow hunters are willing to meet nature on her own terms. As today's best-known bow hunter, Chuck Adams is such a man. Ironically, Adams was born and grew up within 18 miles of Ishi's home territory, the same general location where Pope, Young, and Easton began shooting bows.
Dad spent the largest part of his life in Northern California's Ishi country. He killed his first buck there with a rifle when he was 18 years old. He brought me hunting in the woods in Ishi country when I was just a little kid. I followed him around in the woods and killed my first buck with a rifle when I was 12 years old. By the time I was 15, I realized that hunting the blacktails in Northern California with a rifle was becoming too easy, so I turned to bow hunting. I bagged my first buck with a bow in Ishi country when I was 16 years old. I'm largely self-taught as a bow hunter. My dad has never seriously hunted with a bow, so when I took up the bow, I taught myself to shoot. I taught myself to move within close range of animals, and I did so without the help of books or magazine articles, because at that time there was very little written on bow hunting.
When a bow hunter enters the woods, he experiences a satisfaction known to few. He has studied the terrain. He understands the quarry. He possesses the tools and skills to survive on his own. It is meeting this challenge that provides the excitement of bow hunting.